Hello, welcome to TelecomTV. I'm Martin Warwick. We're here at ONS 2014 talking to Bruce Gregory, who's the CEO of CORSA. Bruce, welcome. Thanks for the time. We're here at what is predominantly a software event of some importance, but you're a hardware company and you produce hardware products. So why are you here?
We produce what is really a disruptive enabling component in the whole evolution of the network to an SDN, to a software-defined network. And one of the key problems that we have right now is in order to implement these networks, there's a certain performance level that people don't talk about. It's kind of the elephant in the room of the hardware today currently can't deliver the performance. It doesn't deliver the scale, it doesn't deliver the flexibility, and in addition, it doesn't evolve well with the model of a network that is evolving over time. So CORSA came up with a product, our DP6400, which we call Programmable OpenFlow Data Plane, and it meets all of those requirements. It has the scale, it has the performance, and it has the configurability to evolve with the OpenFlow standard and with the network as it evolves over time.
It is a given that at present, SDN, NFV, cloud, etc., are disruptive technologies in what used to be a pretty settled pool. Your hardware product must be even more disruptive.
So it's interesting to look at NFV and SDN and OpenFlow, and all three of those are models for delivering services, and all three of those are extremely disruptive. What we've got right now is the intersection of those three, and one of the points they intersect is on our data plane. It's the way to deliver those services. At some point in time, somebody actually has to move the bits in the network at speed, at scale, and that's really the solution that we provided. We looked at what else was out there and available and realized as these three things intersected, it wasn't going to work. It was actually going to fall over.
When you say fall over, you mean it would just not work?
At the level that we'd like to see these networks deployed, and the prototype networks that we've seen deployed so far, that's exactly what's happened. Is people have built small prototype networks, they've tried to scale them to production size, and the hardware data plane or the software data plane, which a lot of people are using, doesn't have the scale and performance to actually deliver the services.
Service providers are saying, no, we want this, and we want it now. We realize we need to make some money somewhere. We can't just cut costs forever. So what are you going to do to help us? Is that what they're saying to you?
It's exactly what's happening. And it's very interesting to watch the dynamic here because the service providers have looked at their networks. They've looked at cloud computing. This is where a lot of it's coming from. They look at the elasticity and the service velocity in a cloud computing world and how fast you're able to deliver services, compute and storage services. They've turned around and said, we want to be able to deliver network services using that same model. Now, it's a complete transformation of the network. That means you've got all the legacy vendors who are, well, we make money selling this kind of gear, and so we don't like that. We'll get dragged along if we have to. And so the service providers have just said, we're going this way. Whoever decides to come with us, they will be successful.
How open is open?
It's not as open as we would like, but it's almost there at this point in time. So we've seen initiatives, I think, that started as pseudo-open and all of a sudden have built up and have become much more pragmatic. Things like Open Daylight, things like the Open Network Foundation, where the standards are being developed. They're a little bit messy, but we're trying to do it in a pragmatic way where we can evolve the standard. We're not doing it in a fixed standards body format, which is also used a lot of times to delay things. We're doing it, we've decided this is kind of like the IP wars of the late 90s, where we're okay with being a little bit messy, as long as we're all marching and have all agreed what those open interfaces are. And then we're opening it up in a big way to the open source community to do a lot of the development. And I think that's going to accelerate what's happening with the open source.
So given the evolution of standards, as you say, is slightly messy and so on, I guess things will shake out in the long term. Just how and when do you think open source, open network, open compute, etc., will actually reshape the network in a way that hasn't been shaped since telephony and basically service providers came into existence?
So there's two worlds, and we'll talk about them, but what we're seeing right now is that transformation is starting right now. And I mentioned Open Daylight and Open Network Foundation and how closely those two organizations are working together right now. And then you have NFV as a business driver behind it, and you need all of those components in order to cause the change. So what we're seeing right now is we're starting to see a lot of pilot deployments, And we're starting to see interoperability work, which is the real test of any kind of open interface. And I think over the next 12 months, what we'll see is a lot of pilot work, a lot of development on those open interfaces to make sure that different pieces of equipment, different software, all works together. And I would expect by this time next year, when we're back at this show, that we will be talking about serious production deployments at that point.
What about the monetization of SDN and NFV? How close is that, and how will it be realized by the service providers, do you think?
So John Donovan gave a really, really good speech yesterday on what AT&T is doing and what their problems are monetizing their network right now and how they view NFV as the solution to monetizing the network as they move forward. It really comes down to, can you get a more than one-to-one transformation of applications as you move to the NFV infrastructure? And the answer there is that what this really does is it gives them the elastic ability. It's all about the customers. What do the customers want, and how do they want to access the network? And the way customers would like to access the network right now, they can't do. They're looking at phone calls and 2 to 4 weeks to deploy services, and what they really want to do is sit in front of a terminal, call the service up right away, and have it working. And there are things coming that we haven't even imagined are going to happen. And we have the Internet of Things happening as well, where we've got so much machine to machine. The network itself is going to have to be able to respond to that, and the current network can't. And so as we move to this SDN model and the NFV model, I think we're going to see elastic networks that really can react to changes like that.
Bruce Gregory, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.